this is my book written on the infamous book written by Robert Kiyosaki, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and whether or not the information still applies in 2020. The biggest components that I've gotten from this book, I read it when I was 15 years old. I'm 28 now. And the two biggest components that I got out of the book, especially prior to graduating high school, was the information that A, college couldn't save you, and B, a house is not an asset. And at 15 years old, both of those things were, I won't say at the forefront of my mind, but it was, if you asked me how to build wealth, those would have been in the top 5 things that I would have responded. And after reading the book, it was just totally life-changing for me, and it exposed me to a lot of areas that I would have overlooked, or I guess not been able to focus on as soon as I did going through like my earlier 20s. And the book in itself, like those two critical components, I believe in the time frame between then and now, that they are still absolutely fundamental. I don't believe anything that has changed in the economy or located in the United States. I don't believe anything that's happened dramatically enough to with the housing markets or the way mortgages are set up or college education. I don't believe anything has happened to make those statements not true. And not saying that you shouldn't go to college, or I don't believe that was Robert's point of view either, but he was saying this, don't count on it to save you and accumulate the debt. You should have a more of a business mind to generate the income, because if you're at the mercy of the economy with both a college education, depending on the industry, and of course in the housing market, then if you pick a bad year to retire, then you know that's going to have a direct effect on you. The book in itself, as far as investing and not doing things the traditional way, I believe that even more so than when he wrote the book, that the world is changing even faster. So just being aware and being in those situations to network with business-minded people and to be more open-minded from like the traditional ways, I believe that has nothing but a positive outcome. The book in itself, I believe last time I checked, it has sold over 32 million copies, like over 50 countries. And I remember reading somewhere that it was the greatest selling personal finance book of all time. And that's for good reason. It challenged the status quo, and I believe it helped a lot of people. And if you haven't read the book yet, you should it's definitely worth reading. And a couple suggestions after you read it would be increase your financial IQ and Unfair Advantage, which I actually liked even more than Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He goes a little bit more in depth in there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is, if you're new to the mindset, it will like challenge you. But Unfair Advantages, he goes a little bit more in depth into some of his investments and his strategy. So definitely check those books out. Anyway, this is going to be my book review for this week. Next week I'm going to do Infinite Games by Simon Sinek. And if you have any questions or comments, just please put in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.